Today we're in the heart of London, stepping inside the beautifully restored Victorian home of digital creator Tanya Burr. She began her career over 15 years ago on YouTube, cultivating a vibrant audience that has grown alongside her. Tanya invites us into her family's bright and airy home with charming original details, a lush garden terrace, and meaningful artwork.
So we're very lucky to have some really beautiful inherited pieces of art in the house from Dan's family. This painting was by his great-grandmother. It's just gorgeous and such a special piece to have.
Tanya's home is layered with collected treasures that make it both warm and inviting.
For me, it's really important for a home to feel warm and lived in and practical, but also quietly elegant too.
Designed and renovated entirely with her keen sense of style, Tanya's home is a true reflection of her creativity and love of home. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see, I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Tanya Burr and welcome to my home in North London. Come on in. Hi, I'm Tanya Burr. I'm a digital creator and welcome to our home. When we first got the keys to the house, it was definitely livable, but not to our taste, and it was lacking in personality and kind of warmth, really. And we were excited that it was somewhere that needed some work to make it our dream family home, and we've always dreamed of doing a full renovation, so it was a really exciting project. The renovation has spanned most of the past year, to be honest, including all of the decoration and all of the finishing touches that come with it. We got the keys on a Friday and our builders started work on the Monday. We'd already had one of our builders come and do a viewing when we knew that the house was going to be ours. This project was my baby and I put all of me into it, and it really did take over my life for the whole time that I've been doing it. I'd never done any kind of interior design before, but it's always been a real interest and passion of mine, and something that I'd been knowing that I would do at some point in my life. So I'd been saving pictures, taking inspiration from anywhere from home websites, from Instagram, to taking photos when I'm watching a film. Lots of inspiration from Nancy Meyers films. And luckily, I've really enjoyed the process, otherwise it would have been even more hard work, but I found it super rewarding. When I walk into my home, I always want to feel a sense of peace and a real kind of escape from the outside world. I want to be in beautiful spaces that inspire me, but also relax me. And for me, it's really important for a home to feel warm and lived in and practical, but also quietly elegant too. Welcome to the hallway, which is the first space that you walk into in our home. When we first got the keys, this was all grey carpet and yellow walls with some purple on some walls, if I remember correctly. The first thing we did was peel back the carpets, and we were thrilled to find original Victorian floorboards. And although they needed a lot of work to get them to where they are today, lots of sanding and then just a very light stain so that they keep their natural kind of inherent beauty. And then this rug here that I'm standing on is an antique runner, which I found on Vinteria. I love using Vinteria for when I need a really specific size of something for the house and want to go antique, because you can put in the dimensions of what you want. And I found this one, which I really love. I love how it's kind of worn and washed out and looks like a genuine hallway runner. This mirror here I've had for over 10 years. It actually came with my old house, and we decided it had to come with us, and I think will be with us forever. It's a really special piece. This little wall sconce Dan bought for me, it's from Paris. The brand is called Alex de Reynes. It's just so pretty. I love having delicate pieces with the more kind of chunky wood of this mirror. I think it's really pretty. So we're very lucky to have some really beautiful inherited pieces of art in the house from Dan's family. This painting was by his great-grandmother. I really love the colours in it and the orange and the flowers. It's just gorgeous and such a special piece to have. This painting is very old. I don't know exactly how old because we found this at an antique shop in Hampstead. It probably needs a bit of love and probably a reframe and rebacking and everything, because the canvas is kind of wiggly, but I think it adds to the charm and we love it. We painted the walls in this space Farrow and Ball white tie, which is just a really beautiful warm white, and we've actually used white tie throughout most of the house. I'll point out when we've used different paint colours, but it's just the most beautiful colour and really allows the pops of colours and things such as the paintings and the rug to kind of just, and our front door too, to just kind of have their own moment with a really nice kind of calm, serene background. Okay, let's head into the living room. Welcome to our living room. This house is Victorian and has the classic double reception room that most Victorian houses have. We decided when renovating to leave the space kind of as it was, with it as one big open room, because it meant that we could have our living room, kind of sitting room space up this end, and then we've used the other end, which I'll show you in a moment, to house our baby grand piano. This room is painted in Farrow & Ball's Show as white, and it's much darker than white tie, even though it may not pick it up on camera, I don't know, but we wanted the living room to feel really cozy and warm and inviting and a place to kind of snuggle down. We have the wood burner, which we use here in the UK for like 6 months of the year, and it's just a really cozy space. This sofa is enormous and by a company called Maker & Son, and it's honestly the most comfortable sofa you will ever sit on. I love this shade of green. I think it's a colour, but it's not too overwhelming, and I think you'll notice throughout the house that we've gone for kind of a slightly pared back, fairly neutral colour scheme throughout the house, and then added little pops here and there, like this beautiful rust cushion which is from Toast, and then these cushions my mum made in Beata Heyman fabric, which she said was one of the most difficult fabrics she's ever had to work with. I think because it's actually for upholstery and not for cushions, but I really love these. Also, what's so great about the size of this sofa is that you can probably see from me sitting on it that it can comfortably seat about 5 adults, and it's just the perfect space for kind of lounging for us as a family on a daily basis, but also if we have friends round or more family, there's space for everybody to sit down and relax. Talking of relaxing, the most important thing is to be able to put your feet up, and this ottoman I love. This is by a company called The House Upstairs. A woman called Jodie runs it, and she makes the most incredible pieces. This rug was an antique find, and I always love to go for rugs that are as big as possible. And the rug that we initially came with from our old house looked like a little postage stamp in this room, so we needed a huge rug. And also, this painting behind me is by a Polish artist, and all of us absolutely adore trees, and I think having trees in the room just makes it feel really cozy and calming. And I love how the colours in the painting are reflected in the sofa and this cushion here. It just all works really well together. Another feature in Victorian homes is always the bay windows, and sometimes it's difficult to know exactly what to do with them, but we decided to go with this bench, which is also by Jodie from The House Upstairs, in this really sweet kind of neutral ticking stripe. Again, it's just really handy to have somewhere else for people to sit. We like hosting friends and having lots of people over, and if people are just coming into the living room to have a drink before coming in to have dinner, it's just a really useful place to have to perch. We were really lucky that most of the windows at the front of this house were the original Victorian windows and actually in pretty fine condition. So these are the originals. And then I just dressed them with these cafe curtains from East London Cloth, which are a really great thing for privacy, but also diffusion of light. They create a real kind of softness to any room. Obviously, we have a TV because this is essentially the TV room and what we spend most of our time doing in here. The TV is standing on this really beautiful unit which Dan's parents gave to him from when they lived in Korea 30 years ago. So that's another really special piece. And then also this tapestry hanging above, I found at Maud Vaughan Interiors. It kind of looks like a fairy tale, but I thought the colours go so well in this room. And I love kind of layering textiles and mixing things up and hanging tapestries on the walls. I think looks really beautiful. When we bought the house, there was no fireplace here, but we had our builder do a little kind of knock on the wall and reassure us that we would be able to put one in. And then we had to have a cherry picker outside the house to fully kind of line our chimney and make it so that this is an actual working wood burner that we use and love. The fireplace is from a place called Chesney's and it's limestone and just feels really classic. Lighting is so important and something that I really spent time making sure that we had the right pieces and the right kind of levels of lighting in a room, and being able to change the levels of lighting depending on what you're doing as well. These little wall lights from Jim Lawrence are so cute, and I really love the kind of black iron against the colour of Joa's white on the walls. Next we come to our bookshelves, and they are my absolute pride and joy, and I just feel so happy to finally have a space big enough to house all of my books and Dan's collection too, all in one place. We built these in and I worked with our carpenter to kind of draw up some plans and describe exactly how I wanted them. And it worked out perfectly, and actually these were built in a day. So it doesn't have to take a long time to make something that makes such a huge difference to your life. The thing you'll notice throughout the house is that books are piled up everywhere. So for example, Dan bought me this for my birthday and it's now just sitting here on this little tray. We have books on our bedside tables, we have books just kind of piled up everywhere. But I think we are getting to the point that we are going to have to do a one in, one out system. So if there's a book that I don't feel particularly sentimental about, I might donate it. And then at the other end of this room, we have my piano, which is my baby, and it's come with me from house to house, and it's just something that I hope to have forever and ever. I've played the piano since I was 6. I'm definitely not as good as I should be, but it's something that I love to do just to unwind and relax, and I also really hope to be able to teach our son one day. So there was an existing fireplace here, but we changed the surround to match the surround that we had to put in up the other end. And then we just use this end just for storing logs. So this doesn't have a working fireplace in it, but I think it looks really cozy, and it's just practical too, to be honest, to be able to have somewhere to store the logs. I love a bureau. It's something that, again, is very practical and useful for storing all those little things that you don't know where to put, but also looks really pretty and just fills these kind of like little alcove spaces perfectly. This opens up and then it folds out, and then you pull out these two little arms here, and then the desktop sits on there and it becomes a little writing desk, which is very sweet. And then to the left of the piano, we have this piece of art, which is very large and very special to me. It was one of the first pieces of art that I ever bought about 10 years ago. It's by an artist called Michael Isaac, and I just find it very calming, and I love it paired with this old antique kind of stormy sea scene. I think the two work together really well, and that's something when designing this house that was really important to me, was having a mix of kind of honouring the period of the house whilst also having some contemporary touches to kind of offer a modern counterpoint. Whilst we're here, you'll notice throughout the house that we replaced all the radiators that were just kind of not very aesthetically pleasing modern ones with these kind of old Victorian style cast iron radiators, and then had them painted to match the colours of the walls. So that was definitely a complicated journey trying to explain to the radiator people we need this one in this size to be in Joa's white and this one to be in white tie, but I'm glad and we got there in the end. As I've said before, I find lighting just so important and I think they can be art pieces in themselves, and these Japanese lights I just think are stunning. I think with a double reception room, you either need to go for very different lighting or just have them matching. So we went for the matching ones. They offer a really kind of soft diffused light. And again, the kind of soft shape of them just feels very relaxing and calming for this space, which is to do exactly that. So that is our main living space. Now we can wander down into the kitchen. On the way to the kitchen, we have our downstairs loo, which is absolutely tiny, but actually one of my favourite rooms in the house. So we decided to paint this in Farrow & Ball's Bancher, which is the same colour as our front door. I think it's really nice to kind of have that colour mimicked somewhere else in the house, and also it's just such a beautiful colour. I just had to think of somewhere else to use it. This loo was a real challenge as it is so particularly tiny, but I really wanted to go with the Victorian features with the sink and with the loo and with the flush, but also create a space in order to, you know, have some places to put personal touches like books and candles and hand soap, because there's not space on the sink for it. And a little lamp in there too, which is really lovely when we have people over for dinner. We don't have to put the big overhead light on. The little mirror is antique. I found it on Etsy. And then this film poster of The Talented Mr. Ripley. It was one of the first films that Dan and I ever watched together when we were first dating, and just had a lovely cozy evening and watching it. I bought this piece of art and wasn't sure where to put it, and then as soon as we did the downstairs loo, I knew it was the perfect space, because I just think the downstairs loo is the perfect place for it, and something that's slightly surprising, you know, when guests come over and use the loo. It's just quite fun. Okay, moving into our kitchen. So nothing has changed layout-wise in the kitchen, but every single other thing has changed, including obviously the floors throughout the whole house. It was some kind of like latex, very dark flooring before. We basically took everything in the room out in order to create our dream family kitchen. And I think with a kitchen, the most important thing is that it's practical and it works for you as a family, but also is a space that feels beautiful and somewhere that you look forward to spending time, as it's somewhere that every family spends a lot of time. I found this old science bench from a school and decided to use it as our kitchen island, because the kitchen wasn't necessarily big enough to have one of those enormous kind of traditional built-in kind of block islands, but I knew that it was something that I really wanted in order to have a space to be able to kind of stand around when you're hosting guests and be able to put some food on here and drinks, but also just every day at home. I use it every single day for just preparing food and be able to face, if Dan and Sage are sat at the table drawing or doing something, it's just so nice to be able to face them and stand this way rather than always having my back to them on the worktops. I think having pieces like this in the room really ground the space. If you look closely, you can actually see kind of markings that children at school were drawing on here, signing their names and stuff, which I think is quite fun. I'm a huge fan of open shelves and have always wanted to do reclaimed wood ones, and our builder actually suggested these, which are old cheese boards from a cheese shop, and if you look closely underneath you can see where the wheels of cheese were sitting on them. I think they add so much character and personality to a space, and also allow you to add more personality by putting your things on top. There's a little sculpture by Dan up there. This is a bottle of his favourite dessert wine that I bought him for a birthday or an anniversary, I can't remember. This, funnily enough, was one of the first things that I bought once we had the keys and we went to Kempton Antiques Market. And I remember when I bought it thinking, this is not what I should be buying. I should be buying, you know, important things like furniture and the things that we really need. But I just saw it, fell in love with it. And then as soon as the kitchen was done, I just popped it up there, and it's lived there ever since. It was never the intention, but it just kind of found its own home there, and I think it's really pretty, and it has a nice memory too. Our carpenter was very clever and made this out of MDF so that it just had a bit more kind of detail and wasn't just your classic kind of extractor fan hood. I just showed him a picture of what I wanted and he managed to do it again in a day, like the bookshelves. He's amazing. And then we have this little rail above the stove, which is from Devol Kitchens. The saucepans hanging on it were from an antique shop in Wyndham, which is near where my parents live. My dad took Dan and I there one day and said, I know you're going to find something in here. And we did. We found those, which were a great find because they were only £20. And when you're looking online at things like that, they cost hundreds. The cupboards are painted in cord by Farrow & Ball. This was a last minute decision by me. I'd always planned to do them Oxford stone, which is a very kind of neutral colour that's just slightly darker than the walls, which are white tie in here. But I had cord on my kind of wish list of colours to use throughout the house and suddenly realised that I wasn't using it. And I thought, do you know what, let's just go for it and do this kind of slightly muted buttery yellow on the kitchen cabinets. And I'm so glad that I went with that decision because I think it's really beautiful. All of the kind of aged brass handles are by Jim Lawrence, which is a favourite of mine for lighting and just kind of any little decorative pieces like door handles. On the shelf up here we have a pot made by my dad. He made this for me and gave it to me for my birthday, I think last year. We also have a few mugs and bowls by him. I always just find it so special having things that have been made by family in the house. Oh, here's a mug by him. I think this is one of the first mugs that he made. It's got his initials on the bottom there. For a while we considered knocking this whole wall out and doing the kind of bifold doors, but part of me is just getting kind of bored of that. We had it in the last house and I feel like houses are moving slightly more traditional again, and for me it was so important to have a sink where you spend so much time kind of washing up and preparing things, overlooking the garden. I also love these Victorian windows, which we did have to put in and were definitely one of the biggest expenses in the house. We had them done by a company called Beach Hall Joinery, which they make the most incredible windows and doors. They also did our front door. And as I said, we were very lucky that throughout the whole front of the house, the original timber Victorian windows were there. But everywhere throughout the back of the house, they'd been sadly replaced with the plastic PVC windows. And so we had Beach Hall just make these really gorgeous Victorian paned windows and the doors over there too. And then moving over to our dining space, I think I really love an open plan kitchen dining area. I think if you have a separate closed off dining room, the reality is it never gets used. And I love that so many meals are had sat around this table, and it's also so great for hosting too, because even if I'm finishing up dinner and people are sitting down or standing around the island, it's just a really brilliant place for hosting people, which we love to do. The table is over 10 years old and came with us from the last house, and the chairs are new to this house, but also very old antique ones. The table is sitting on this rug, which is a collaboration between Pelican House and a friend of mine, Lucy Williams. The colours in it work perfectly with the kitchen cupboards. It may seem impractical to have a very beautiful rug under a dining table, especially when we have a 2-year-old, but that just kind of goes with my vibe of just having the beautiful things, using the beautiful things, and life's too short to not have them. As you guys will realise, just lighting is one of my favourite things when it comes to interiors, and something that I spent a lot of time thinking about. I think they can be really stunning features, and this one is by a company called Pinch. They're all handmade. I think this one is some kind of Hessian or linen, all natural fibres and fabrics, which I think just add to the kind of like anchoring the space. These little wall lights up here are by Soho Home. I deliberated for ages over whether it was, I had too many different kinds of lighting throughout the room, so I ended up mirroring these ones on the walls above the shelves over here. I think sometimes people can underestimate the importance of lighting in a kitchen, and after coming from a house that was all spotlights overhead, I really wanted to have a kitchen space that was practical with enough lighting for preparing food and cooking, but also somewhere that we could dim all of the lights. So we had our electrician Tom, who is amazing. He put dimmers in everywhere so that we can dim down all of the lighting when we're hosting a dinner in here. And one of my favourite ways to kind of set it up is to have all of the lights on, but just have them dimmed down to the lowest point, and then you just get these little points of soft glowiness around the room, and it creates a really kind of quite a romantic setting. We have a painting by Dan's grandmother here, another one over there by his great-grandmother. And then this painting on the wall here is actually by Dan, and he had totally not intended for it to be kind kind of pride of place in such a kind of place showing it off in the kitchen, but I hung it up there when he was out and said, this is staying, it looks really good. And everyone who comes to the house loves it, so I'm just so glad that it's there and that he agreed to keep it there. Okay, let's go out to the garden. So this is our garden, and I cannot take credit for our garden. I worked with the most wonderful garden designer called Tabby Jackson-G. She was so brilliant to work with, so collaborative, and really understood what we wanted from this space. We're very lucky that despite this being a north-facing garden, it actually gets the sun, as you can see, on the spaces where you need it for the entire day, and it continues to have sun that kind of comes round, and then sometimes we move the table and chairs over to this area here, and it gets the sun even at 6 o'clock in the evening. When we bought the house, it was feeling very kind of sad out here and just a bit of astroturf and some very dark grey paving. We just really wanted to kind of brighten up the space and create lots of kind of greenery and just have a place to relax and unwind and enjoy being outside whilst at home. I love having all of the little pots dotted around on the wall at the back, and also the larger ones here. All of the pots are from a company called Crocus, and I love the mixtures of the darker grey stone and then the terracotta too. The little table and chairs are from Crocus, and then our sofa is one that I've had for, I think, about 8 years, and it's by a company called Cox & Cox. And then we have this little chair just kind of on its own, which I can't remember where it's from. I've had it for so many years, and it was never designed to be outside, so it is slightly kind of struggling and weathered, but it's really useful to have a chair that I can kind of move and pull into the shade if I want to read outside and it's too hot, like it is today, to sit in the sunshine. Now let's go back inside. I suppose my career really is quite multifaceted and has so many different elements to it, but it all started on YouTube 15 years ago, which makes me feel really old now. And I started out there kind of vlogging, doing makeup tutorials, fashion videos, and slowly built an audience that luckily most of them have stuck with me for the last 15 years, and it has just grown and grown. And then Instagram popped up and I joined Instagram, and I kind of just tried to move with the times and join any new social media platform that opened. But I would definitely say that YouTube was my beginning, and now Instagram is a huge part of my business as well. I've also done some acting over the years, less since we had our son and life's become much busier, although I did manage to do a film just before Christmas. But I guess kind of the overarching description is digital creative. And now one of my biggest focuses online, as well as interiors, now that I've been sharing this renovation and decoration every step of the way, is also my book club, which I started just over a year ago. I've been sharing what I read online with my audience since the very beginning, and reading's always been such a huge part of my life. But then I made it more official by starting a book club last year, and we've built the most wonderful community of like-minded people who just love books and want to share their thoughts with each other and discuss, and it's just been the most wonderful thing. I think if my 20-year-old self just starting out making videos on an old laptop using the webcam feature, she would be really excited for her future. Okay, let's head upstairs. This is our bedroom, and it's definitely my favourite place in the whole house. There's something about this room just fills me with joy, and it just makes me feel so peaceful and calm. And Dan and I both agreed when I was looking to design this space that we wanted to create a real sanctuary when it came to our bedroom and bathroom area. I think by keeping the colour palette in here very pared back and neutral, but then layering textures such as the velvet and the wooden floors and the rug and the linen curtains and headboard, just kind of layer together and create this sense of tranquility. The walls are painted in white tie, the colour that we've used most throughout the entire house. The fabric on our headboard is matching with our curtains, and then also Dan had this idea. I had this antique little stool. It had this quite offensive dark red stripe when I got it, and Dan had this idea to get it reupholstered in the same fabric as the curtains and headboard, and I think it just ties everything together so nicely. The dressing table is an old, I think, Edwardian one, and this little mirror we inherited from Dan's grandmother, so it's a really special place to kind of get ready and do my makeup. Again, I used the East London cloth cafe curtains throughout most of the windows in the house, but at this time of year we do love having them pushed aside in some of the rooms so that you can see the kind of beautiful green leaves on the trees, and when we come into the bathroom you'll see the view is so beautiful from when you're laying in the bath and just looking up at it. Feels like we're in a forest and not, so close to central London. Coming around to the fireplace here, this was a very lucky one because so much in the house, as I will have said, we had to put in, but this fireplace was already here and just so stunning in this marble, and there's not much marble in the rest of the house, so I thought this was really lovely to keep here. Above it there is a drawing of me by Dan, which again, there was no intention of this being pride of place above the fireplace in our bedroom, but it just kind of ended up here, and it definitely feels special to have those little personal things around the home. Oh, and also before anyone wonders, we have taken down our family photos to do any kind of shoots for the house because they're just personal for us, but usually we do have tons of family photos along the top of the fireplace here too. And then just here we have Dan's wardrobe, which is definitely smaller than mine, but I have to argue that I do kind of work in fashion. So that's why my wardrobe is next to his study. It's like my wardrobe is my office and his study is his office. This we picked up at an antique market. It feels like something from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and just adds so much character to the room. We love it. Since this room is so kind of pared back with its decoration, I went for this really large light from Pinch. It's made from banana leaf and it's absolutely beautiful and a real kind of feature in this room, and just with the high ceilings it just makes it feel very kind of grand, and I love it. I'm so happy that we went for it. So we knocked through a few things in this room to create our perfect kind of bedroom ensuite bathroom space. So where the bed currently is was where the people who lived here before had created a kind of little walk-in wardrobe corridor space, but it wasn't hugely practical and it meant that that window was completely lost. So we knocked all of that out and then also knocked through this wall here. I haven't mentioned him yet, but our builder Lewis was absolutely incredible, and I couldn't have done all of this decision making without him. Not that he's an interior designer or anything, but just having someone to kind of bounce the ideas off was just so important. And we found these reclaimed doors on eBay for just £70. And then I put these Jim Lawrence handles on them, and Lewis knocked through this wall to create the perfect space to fit the doors that we'd found. I love pocket doors. It's always been a dream of mine to incorporate them when renovating a home. Something about it just feels kind of like you're entering a secret space. And now we come into my other favourite space of the house, or I kind of count this as all one space because we're usually leaving these open, and it's just kind of a lovely flowing space from the bedroom to our primary bathroom. So we have this beautiful Victorian style roll top bath in the centre of the room, and it's just so lovely to be laying in the bath, and I tend to always face out this way and have these doors open so that I can look at the trees. The fireplace in here was existing. It's not my favourite fireplace in the house, but it was definitely too good to do anything to. The art on the wall above the fireplace is a pastel piece that I've had for years, and it used to live in the hallway in my old house, but as soon as I was deciding where to put kind of my existing artwork in this home, I just knew that it would work so well in the bathroom and just feels very kind of calming and has that kind of water theme to go with the bathroom. And then this piece on the wall here is by an artist called Sally McKay, and Dan bought me this for my birthday just a couple of months ago. I think it's now my favourite piece of art that I own. We have the double sink vanity unit. This is by Soho Home and is a really incredible piece of furniture. The drawers are so deep and so useful for storing everything. It's practical as well as being incredibly stunning. I went for the Leaf-Roy Brooks taps throughout the kind of bath and shower and over here on the vanity too. They're definitely an investment, but they will pay you back by patinaing beautifully. Like, we've only had them in here for just over 6 months and they're already aging so well. And they're just classic and timeless. And then this mirror is one of my favourite pieces in the whole house. I found this at an antique shop in Tetbury called Brown Rig, and it's 18th century Italian, and I just love adding a piece to a room like this that has so much history with the kind of brand new beautiful vanity and bath. These little baby wall lights either side are by Hector Finch, and I think are absolutely adorable. And then in this corner of the room we have our walk-in shower. This is all actually done in a material called micro cement, which works so well in here because we managed to find a colour that perfectly matches white tie, which is on the walls. It just feels very kind of natural and grounding, and just a really beautiful space to be showering in every morning. Okay, let's head upstairs to our son's room. So up here at the top of the house we have our son Sage's bedroom, and also a guest bedroom next door. My sister bought him these to have his name on the door, which I think is super cute. And then as we come into the room, we have his cot bed here, which is by a company called Charlie Crane, and I think it's one of the most beautiful cots ever, and it's been so amazing for him. I know that he won't have much longer left in it, and we do have his bed ready for him to move into, and also just it's very useful to have a space to kind of read stories and sit and relax with him in the room. So that's why we also have a single bed in here too. But this is where he currently sleeps, and these little elephants on the front, my friend Sophie bought him from India when he was born, and he's had them on there ever since. The pictures above his bed are by a company called Forever, and he has an obsession with horses and all animals really, so he absolutely loves these. We have his Tony's box here, which is an essential for any toddler that reads him bedtime stories. His little play kitchen, which he loves to make me cups of tea from. I really love this kind of old school Victorian style of bed. I know that some people love the kind of Scandinavian looking ones, or kind of the more, you know, there's so many choices when it comes to a child's bed, but I felt that this one was very kind of in keeping with the rest of the house, but being in a green colour felt a little bit more fun. And then the blanket is by Toast, the little cushion is an Ian Mankin one, and then the bunny, this was made for Sage by my mother, and she even made him cute little pyjamas too. On top of his chest of drawers we have a selection of books that tend to be the more kind of bedtime story ones that we choose together in the evening, so they don't need to be kind of so at his height that he can reach them himself. And then this lamp, which is by Hum London. The design is kind of done in this perforated cardboard, which works really beautifully when you turn it on. The light kind of shines through. It's difficult to see in daylight, but it's really pretty in the evenings. And this is his star sign, which is Scorpio. And then above here we have a quilt made by my mum. In this corner we have his teepee, which was a first birthday present for him from Dan and I, and he just loves this. I think all children just love finding somewhere to kind of hide and feel like they have their own secret world. He also keeps all of his soft teddies in there. I love that he has so much light in his room, and the view looking out is just of trees, which is just, we're so grateful for. And then this little blanket hanging on the radiator here, my mum made this for him when he was first born, and it just, I love having really special sentimental items that he can keep forever. And as I said, he does have books over there that are more kind of the stories that I read to him and that we choose together, the slightly bigger books. And then he has this little bookcase here, which Dan inherited from his grandparents, and it has all his kind of little books that he can just pick up himself and flick through when he's sitting on the rug down here, and that can amuse him for hours. These tapestries are so sweet, and we've had this one since before he was born. It was one of the first things that we bought for his nursery in our old house, and this one is the alphabet, and then the one over on the other side is numbers. I always want guests to feel relaxed and welcomed, and like they can put their feet up and not have to worry about taking their shoes off or using a coaster when they put down a drink on a side table. I think houses should be lived in, and the best houses make you feel comfortable, and there might be the odd little mark here and there, but I'd rather that than people feel like on edge when they walk into the house. My home really is my safe place and my escape, and I love it.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.